Welcome back. Welcome to part 2 of this Now That's What I Call Music collection. We're on Now That's What I Call Music 23, which was released on November 7th, 2006, and has the Billboard Hot 100 number 1 hits London Bridge by Fergie and Promiscuous by Timbaland and Nelly Furtado, and Sexy Back by Justin Timberlake featuring Timbaland. Next is Now That's What I Call Music 24. Got released on March 17th, 2007, and is the first now with 4 Billboard Hot 100 number 1 hits. And they all would be, let's see how many they're all. Okay, they're all would be Say It Right by Nelly Furtado, Irreplaceable by Beyonce, My Love by Justin Timberlake featuring T.I., and I Wanna Love You by Snoop Dogg. And this is Now That's What I Call Music 25. It was released on July 17th, 2007, and features 3 Billboard Hot 100 number 1 hits, which are Girlfriend by Avril Lavigne, Glamorous by Fergie, and Buy You a Drink, Shorty Snappin' by T-Pain. Now That's What I Call Music 26 was released on November 13th, 2007, and features the Billboard Hot 100 number 1 hits Crank That Soulja Boy by Soulja Boy Tell 'Em, Beautiful Girls by Sean Kingston, Big Girls Don't Cry by Fergie, and Hey There Delia by Plain White Tees. This is Now That's What I Call Music 27, and it has 20 tracks, including the number 1's Kiss Kiss by Chris Brown and No One by Alicia Keys, and was released on March 11th, 2008. Now That's What I Call Music 28 was released on June 3rd, 2008, and has the Billboard Hot 100 number 1 hits Lollipop by Lil Wayne. The first time an album was released when one of its number 1s was still a top at the time of the album's release, and Bleed in Love by Leona Lewis. Now That's What I Call Music 29 was released on November 11th, 2008, and features the number 1's So What by Pink, and what's the other one? Disturbia by Rihanna, and Whatever You Like by T.I. This is Now That's What I Call Music 30, which was released on it was released on, let's see what day it was released. Oh yeah, March 24th, 2009. Now That's What I Call Music 30 was released on March 24th, 2009. And features the Billboard Hot 100 number 1 hits Just Dance by Lady Gaga and Womanizer by Britney Spears. Now we're on to Now 31. So Now That's What I Call Music 31 was released on June 30th, 2009, and features the number 1 hits Boom Boom Pow by the Black Eyed Peas, Right Round by Flo Rida featuring Kesha, and Poker Face by Lady Gaga, plus My Life Would Suck Without You by Kelly Clarkson. Now That's What I Call Music 32 was released on November 3rd, 2009, and features the Billboard Hot 100 number 1 hits I Got a Feelin' by the Black Eyed Peas, Down by Jay Sean, and What You Say by Jason Derulo. And this is Now That's What I Call Music 33, which was released on March 23rd, 2010, and has 21 tracks, like now 32, including 2 number ones, which are TikTok by Kesha and Fireflies by Owl City. Now That's What I Call Music 34 was released on June 15th, 2010, and has 20 tracks, including the Billboard Hot 100 number 1 hits Nothing on You by B.O.B. featuring Bruno Mars, Rude Boy by Rihanna, OMG by Usher featuring will.i.am, and I'm a Bee by the Black Eyed Peas. Now That's What I Call Music 35 is from August 31st, 2010, and has 20 tracks, including the Billboard Hot 100 number 1 hits, California Girls by Katy Perry featuring Snoop Dogg. Every Now That's What I Call Music album since Now 32 has something special at the end known as bonus tracks or preview tracks to predict what artists might be popular in the future. But it usually doesn't go success. So, now we have Now 36, and this album, after the preview section of this album, which remains number 20, is a flashback bonus track, which features a Viva Elvis arrangement of Elvis Presley's 1969 number 1 hit Suspicious Minds. Which I'm not counting when I do the number 1 count of Now 36. And Suspicious Minds was originally from 1969, and 41 years later, a Viva Elvis remix is featured as a flashback bonus track at the end of this album. Now That's What I Call Music 36. Very special, huh? So this Now album was released on November 9th, 2010, and has the Billboard Hot 100 number 1 hit Teenage Dream. Now we're on to Now 37. This album has the most Billboard Hot 100 number 1 hits, and was released on February 8th, 2011. Now, how many people would want to listen to this album with so many number 1 hits? They call it one of the most enjoyable Now albums. Is this listened to by the most people? I don't know, but let's go through the number 1 list now. Okay, so the number 1 songs featured on Now 37 are Love the Way You Lie by Eminem featuring Rihanna, Just the Way You Are by Bruno Mars, Firework by Katy Perry, Razor Glass by Pink, We Are Who We Are by Kesha, Only Girl in the World by Rihanna, and Like a G6 by Far East Movin' featuring the Cataracts and Dev. Now That's What I Call Music 38 was released on May 3rd, 2011, and features 5 Billboard Hot 100 number 1 hits. Only the second album to have 5 of them, following Now 32. Including the number 1s. What are they? Born This Way by Lady Gaga, Hold It Against Me by Britney Spears, Grenade by Bruno Mars, E.T. by Katy Perry featuring Kanye West, and Rollin' in the Deep by Adele. And Now That's What I Call Music 39 was released on August 9th, 2011, and has the Billboard Hot 100 number 1 hits Last Friday Night by Katy Perry, Party Rock Anthem by LMFAO, and Give Me Everything by Pitbull. Now That's What I Call Music 40 was released on November 8th, 2011. And this is the first Now That's What I Call Music album to have a deluxe edition. Along with, well, because they want to celebrate 40 discs. So a second disc in the deluxe version has 16 tracks from previous Now releases, both numbered and non-numbered editions, and 2 tracks that were never on previous Now releases before, including Low by Florida and Cry Me a River by who is that? Justin Timberlake. This Now That's What I Call Music 40 album was released on November 8th, 2011, alongside a deluxe edition. I have the standard edition, and features the number 1 hit Moves Like Jagger by Maroon 5 and Christina Aguilera. Now, for Now That's What I Call Music 41, which was released on February 7th, 2012, and includes 20 songs, including the number 1 hits Sexy and I Know It by LMFAO and Someone Like You by Adele. And Now That's What I Call Music 42 was released on May 1st, 2012, and features the Billboard Hot 100 number 1 hits Stronger, What Doesn't Kill You by Kelly Clarkson, and Somebody That I Used to Know by Goit. This is Now That's What I Call Music 43, released on August 7th, 2012, featuring the number 1 hits Call Me Maybe by Carly Rae Jepsen and Part of Me by Katy Perry. Now That's What I Call Music 44 is from November 6, 2012, having the Billboard Hot 100 number 1 hits. What are they? Oh yeah, Whistle by Florida and One More Night by Maroon 5. Now That's What I Call Music 45 was released on February 5th, 2013, and features the number 1 hit We Are Never Ever Getting Back Together by Taylor Swift. And Now That's What I Call Music 46 from May 7th, 2013, including number 1 hits Locked Out of Heaven by Bruno Mars and Just Give Me a Reason by Pink, featuring Nate Rossa Fun. Now for Now 47. This was released on August 6th, 2013, and has the number 1 hit When I Was Your Man by Bruno Mars. And Now That's What I Call Music 48 was released on November 11th, 2010. It was originally November 11th, 2013. It was originally going to be released on a day later, November 12th, 2013, or 11/12/13, but was later moved up a day because of long patient waiting of the track list reveal. So this has the Billboard Hot 100 number 1 hits Roar by Katy Perry and Blurred Lines by Robin Thicke featuring Pharrell and T.I. And Now That's What I Call Music 49 was released on February 4th, 2014, and has 21 songs. Previous editions had 20, but this one, and continuing until 55, will have 21 songs, and this one has 21 songs, including the number 1 hits Timber by Kesha and Pitbull. Timber by Pitbull featuring Kesha, Royals by Lord, and Wrecking Ball by Miley Cyrus. We're getting close to 15 minutes, so see me in part 3, please.